Welcome to the Weight Loss for Women Over 50 Masterclass Series. I'm here with Dr. Joan Iflin today. Hey, Dr. Joan.
Hey, thank you so much for having me.
I love having you. So, Dr. Joan Iflin has been creating breakthroughs in recovery from food addiction from 1999 with her first popular book to 2018 with her textbook, Processed Food Addiction Foundations, Assessment, and Recovery, was released by CRC Press. So she has been selected for her expertise by Oprah Winfrey Network, Martha Stewart Wedding Magazine, Fortune Magazine, and U.S. News and World Report. So wonderful. So she founded the Online Addiction Reset Community, ARC, in 2018, the Facebook group Food Addiction Education, and www.foodaddictionresources.com to provide free support. So Reset Week is the first online live video program for withdrawal, and ARC Manager Training is a program training future addiction reset community leaders. So it is so wonderful what you do, Dr. Joan.
Oh, thank you.
She is the lead author of the first scholarly description of processed food addiction and definition of addictive foods. And Dr. Iflin earned her PhD in addictive nutrition at Union Institute and University, her MBA at Stanford Business School, and her BA in economics and political science at Oberlin College. And she resides in Seattle.
I do.
Yeah,
Okay.
so welcome. You're here to talk about the truth about weight loss and remission of health problems.
Yes.
That's a
We
big
have,
topic.
we're just, I've been given credit for, and, I just was graced with long periods in my life where I could sit and study 3 years for a doctoral program and then 3 years to research and write the textbook. So people do look to me for this science. And people tell me that I've really created the scientific basis, in other words, legitimized the field of processed food addiction and recovery. Great. I'm just so humbled that I had, my father and my husband supported me to give me the years and years of time required to really understand and document, share the evidence, organize the research in a way that people could see that processed foods create really intense cravings, and the cravings dominate our rational thought, and this is why people are sick, and this is why people gain weight, and it's there, it's all there. It's really well laid out, and I'm still doing workshops for our communities, and the research just gets stronger and stronger on these points. But I think that I am on the verge of creating another field, which is remission healthcare. So we have the medical industry they can put infections into remission. They can put bone fractures into remission. In other words, the person is good as new. But the diseases that are killing people today are killing people because the medical industry cannot put them into remission. So heart disease and diabetes and Alzheimer's and high blood pressure, stroke, and gut problems and cancer. These are diseases that are they're addressed by other methods, and they're out there and they're documented. It's just that the medical industry was founded to be, and it is, a pharmaceutical, surgery, physical therapy, talk therapy industry. Great. We love them. We love them to pieces. Those things are hard to do. And there are hundreds of thousands of people who have dedicated their lives to making those modalities available to people. But where the medical industry just got off the tracks is claiming that they're it. And they, if they can't cure it, it's because it's incurable. Or it's just a chronic disease. Or, oh, you will be on medication for the rest of your life. Or, oh, learn to live with that pain. It's not curable. It turns out that that's not true at all. That they've got their slice. And I really began to get a hold of this in a book called Healthy No Matter What. It's written by a World Health Organization doctor. And he states in there that the medical industry has about 10% of the healing modalities, and the other 90% are documented, but because the medical industry dominates, you know, the legislatures and the licensing and the media, it's, you know, you only hear about these quote unquote pharmaceutical breakthroughs, and you don't hear about meditation and visualizations and qigong and breath work and hot cold therapy and tapping and sound healing and all these other things that work. They work great, but they only work great if you're in a group, because otherwise your brain is your brain always is your brain loves you so much. It wants you to fit in somewhere, to belong somewhere, to have the security of a community around you that accepts you and protects you and cherishes you. So your brain is always looking at the opportunity for you to belong, for you to fit in. It's a very loving brain we have. It wants us to belong somewhere. And when you're reading about the medical industry all the time, your brain says, oh, well, let's belong over there. But when you're in a community that's practicing these incredibly effective, easy to learn, free modalities, then your brain will say, oh, well, we want to belong here. This looks like a good place to belong. Let's belong here. So then it copies not only doing the modalities, but it copies the results. So when you're in a group of people who are talking about, oh, you know, I did this light meditation and I really got the pain to stop. And then you explain the science to them. The meditation releases the brain's own opioids. And if you're actually thinking about a particular point in your body, then those opioid neurotransmitters will travel across the brain and latch on to those brain endings in the brain. I mean, sorry, the nerve endings for that part of the body in the brain, and it will numb that pain while sending anti-inflammation and pro-immune function agents to that spot. The body can do that, and it's well documented. Breath work will do that. Qigong, meditation, acupuncture. These are all modalities that have been shown to increase anti-infection, increase anti-inflammation, increase calm, increase oxygenation, increase oxytocin. You know, they do the blood work on these methods, and there it is again and again and again. The stress markers come down, which means the blood can flow throughout the body. But the key is to be in a group that's trying a lot of these different modalities so that you have the opportunity to experience and like the ones that actually work for you. You know, you can't like, oh, meditation is the only way. That's not true. There are lots and lots of ways. So, Sherry Lynn, I'm trying to find, I mean, I love running my programs, the training program, the remission program, the daily healthy living program. But oh my gosh, I wish, you know, I just lucked out. I got 3 years to myself to research and write the processed food recovery textbook. And now, oh man, I just wish I had 3 years to write the textbook for remission healthcare. I don't want people to
Oh,
suffer. That's been my mantra for 28 years. Stop suffering. And
wow.
now we've got this whole new avenue to stop suffering. And for women over 50, this is particularly poignant because we're told, I had this experience. I'm going to share this story. I hope it's not too long. We're told we're getting old. So there's this terrible joke. I'll tell the joke and then you'll see where I'm going with it. A woman goes into her doctor because she's got pretty acute joint pain. And the doctor says, well, this is just what happens when you get older. You're 29 now, and you just have to expect this. It's like, no. No. But doctors don't have an explanation because they don't know. They're not trained in processed foods cause inflammation, including joints. So we're told that we're getting all these problems because we're getting older. That is not true at all. We're having these problems. These are the accumulative effects of processed foods and stress and a limited access to all healing modalities. It's three pieces. It's bad food. No, I mean, there's no way around that. But it's the signaling for the cravings that's causing us to eat bad food. And then it is stress. Stress is a killer. Stress, especially stress that's being kind of aggravated by trauma. So there's stressors in our environment. There's scary TV programming, all that stuff. But then trauma will leave the brain in a hyperactive stress mode, hypervigilant and hyper worried. So you've got to be in a community that's addressing stress, got to be in a community that's eating clean so that drive to belong, the brain just looking for a place where you can belong and fit in, so that you're satisfying and protecting that mechanism in the brain. And then there's the third piece that I've just really honed in on in the last couple of years, which is you've got to have access to the other 90% of healing modalities. I am 72 years old. I am working on my last diagnosis. It's asthma, and I have to work through layers and layers of, conditioning. I had to go to the acupuncturist and get the energy points opened up. I had to go to the deep tissue massage therapist and get those muscles to start moving again. And I had to work down through layers of trauma. Where did I learn to not breathe? What were the circumstances? And I had to do that when I was ready to do that. It might not be ready at 8 o'clock in the morning, but it might be ready at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And I can go into these meetings, these online meetings, and get this stuff processed.
Mhm.
So when this diagnosis breaks up and goes into remission, which it is, I'm in that process. It's getting better and better all the time. I will be 72 years old and no diagnoses. And that's quite unusual in our culture, but it's because I'm in these communities. So I do hope that all of your listeners, all of your viewers, all of your followers will not buy into this I'm getting old. Now, this is about community. I've just come from 2.5 months staying with my daughter, long COVID, chronic fatigue, 2 little kids, divorced, so single parent, helping her get through that. She thinks I'm old. She thinks I'm old. I came back from that experience feeling old. And I just caught it. Like, I've only been back for 3 or 4 days, but I just caught it. Oh, I feel old because I've been around my daughter who thinks I'm old. But when I'm full-time in my communities,
Mhm.
I'm not old at all. I don't feel old. I don't act old. I don't think I'm old. I'm super healthy, energetic. clear-headed, contributing to society, socializing all the time and online.
Mhm.
You know, the country is now sick. 73% of what people eat is processed foods. 93% of Americans have a diagnosis of some kind.
Mhm.
84% of the country is overweight or obese or severely obese.
Mhm.
I don't want my lovely brain looking for a place for me to belong and fit in, and I don't want to. I don't want to
Mhm.
go to that profile. Anyway,
Right. Yeah. I could just listen to you keep talking. I just love listening to you and your stories and even about your life and going to stay with your daughter and yeah. So can you explain to us about the standard American diet, the SAD diet, this highly processed, low nutrient, cheap foods diet that you kind of alluded to, and what happened with the food industry since the 1980s?
yeah, yeah. This is a great place. This is where it really all starts. It
Mm-hmm.
starts with the invention of high fructose corn syrup in 1980. It came on the market. And until then, the tobacco industry couldn't implement its addiction business model in processed foods. It has an addiction business model.
Yes.
It used it. Now, you just think about cigarettes. Cigarettes are disgusting. They are repulsive. Like, you don't want to get anywhere near somebody who's smoking. Their hair stinks. Their clothing, oh, gross. But somehow the tobacco industry was able to get 2/3 of American adults to smoke in the 50s and 60s, 40s, 50s, 60s. How did they do that? They used the addiction business model. They are masters of addiction. And what is that business model? It's so first of all, you have addictive product formulation. You have to teach the brain, you have to condition, program, wire the brain to put out so much craving neurotransmitter that that craving dominates behavior. It's released in the midbrain, it travels across the midbrain to the behavior center. That is what you are doing. Rational thought, ooh, that is disgusting. I wouldn't go anywhere near somebody like that. That's rational. So when your frontal lobe is winning the neurotransmitter battle, you think, oh, that's disgusting. I don't even want to be around anybody who's smoking. And I certainly don't want to smoke myself. I would never do that. That means your frontal lobe is putting out enough neurotransmitter to control behavior. So it's a battle. It's a battle between the frontal lobe and the craving, the reward, the pleasure centers in the midbrain. Well, what the addiction business model does is it ensures that the craving centers are winning that battle. And how do they do that? Well, they hide addictive substances in the product. So the cigarette companies isolated nicotine and put it into cigarettes. And then so when they came to processed foods, they're like, we're going to hide sugar, fat, salt in bread and pasta sauce and all these products that before were not addictive, but after the tobacco industry got done with those products, they were addictive. They were craving. They would trigger a greater surge of cravings than rational neurotransmitters. So hide addictive substances in the product, make it very available. So these are the 5 A's: addictive product formulation, and then available. So when they were taking out the cigarette vending machines, they were putting in the snack and soda machines. You've got to be able to get a hold of the product to maintain the cravings. Because like with processed foods, if you get off of them for 4 days, they, for some reason, you couldn't get your hands on processed foods for 4 days, the cravings will stop and your frontal lobe then will dominate. So that's why the country is now blanketed with fast food. And that's why they converted gas stations into, the convenience is like the most facetious name. It's not convenient to be sick and brain fogged and tired. And everything in those stores are really addictive substances. They're drug dealing stops. So break rooms and schools and all these places are now just flooded with processed foods. So availability.
Mhm.
And then of course the big box grocery stores, and it just goes on and on. So that's the second one. It's addictive product formulation, availability, affordability. And that's where the high fructose corn syrup comes in. Why were cigarettes able to be spread? It was the invention of the cigarette rolling machine. So the cigarette rolling machine made cigarettes cheap enough. They were affordable enough that lots of people could buy them. Before that, you had actual physical people rolling cigarettes in cigarette factories, and it was too expensive for most people. But with the rolling machine, the price of the product fell low enough that masses of people could afford it. So with high fructose corn syrup, the tobacco industry didn't have to depend on their fellow addiction masters, the sugar cartel. Now they had a limitless supply of a sweetener, highly addictive sweetener. Rob Lustig has published a paper on this. He describes how high fructose corn syrup goes through the body like corn alcohol.
Oh.
So now you've got a substance that's so addictive and destructive, and you can put it in everything. And they did. They hired a consultant from Harvard. He had a PhD in experimental psychology and marketing. His name is Howard Moskowitz. He's still around. And he went through all the products. He had a method. He's now worth $45 million. He had a method where he could maximize the amount of sugar, fat, salt in a product before the consumer would detect it. So now you're going back to that product, the addictive product formulation.
Mhm.
He could hide sugar, fat, salt in, say, bread. In 1978, a slice of bread, you went on about your day. But by 1999, that bread had so many craving substances in it, addictive food-like substances, sugar, fat, salt, that it would create a flood of cravings that would shut down the frontal lobe, and you might stand there and eat the whole loaf.
Wow.
That's what happened to us. Okay, then you go on to advertising. So you have to create delusion around this. You have to create such intense delusion that people plug into the delusion more than the reality. So how did that work with cigarettes? Oh, you hire Lauren Bacall and Humphrey Bogart to smoke and flirt. Now you're plugged into sexy. And that's a whole different pleasure transmitter release.
Mhm.
And you don't even notice that it's disgusting because your brain is full of sexy neurotransmitters. And so you see children at a birthday party with a Kool-Aid birthday party with the Kool-Aid pitcher and the Kool-Aid glasses. And
Mhm.
now it's just the same as Humphrey Bogart and Lauren Bacall, except that, you want to have a Kool-Aid party because you'll have fun and your party will be cool and you'll be cool and your friends will
Mhm.
be too. It's a different, and then you don't notice that after you drink the Kool-Aid, you're sick. You can't think. All you can think about is sugar and getting more Kool-Aid or getting some candy. And that child's not having a life. They're not developing. And then the last one is young age of onset. So you want to get that developing brain to develop as a craving brain. You don't want that brain to develop in all of its vibrancy and all of its power and all its capability to tell right from wrong. You want to get that stopped. So you don't want to start somebody smoking when they're 22. They won't do it. Their brain is developed enough, their frontal lobe is strong enough that it just never really looks right. So you want to start as young as possible. And that's why they had the Joe Camel cartoon campaign, 10-year-old boys. And the regulators were able to stop that. But oh my gosh, when tobacco got into processed foods and tobacco bought General Foods, which had Kool-Aid, then you can attack small children. You can make baby formula at 51% sugar and corn syrup solids. You can addict them right out of the, actually there's some evidence that the fetus gets addicted in the womb and then never stop. So that then you come to our topic of, you know, women in their 50s who want to lose weight. The first step in losing weight, and this is really hard, I'm not going to minimize this, is to understand the tobacco story and understand what has happened to your brain under this model. It's a business model. Alcohol uses it, cannabis uses it, vaping uses it, tobacco uses it. Even the opioid manufacturers used it. It's delusion and its availability and its cheap prices, and then you're hooked before you know it. So if those of us who are older than 50 can get our arms wrapped around this terrible thing that has happened to us. You know, the government stood by because all those politicians depend on processed food and medical industry contributions to run their campaigns. So they've stood by and let this happen to us. This will kill 1.6 million Americans this year, 4 times worse than COVID. If you can get your brain wrapped around what these corporations did to us, then you can recover use of your brain and then you can lose weight. But you got to get that first step in.
I think it's just so important for all of our viewers to understand the connection, that addiction connection from these companies and our food, the food industry, and how that was taken over, and why we're seeing the effects of it.
You know, Sherry Lynn, you just have to ask yourself one question, and the clarity is, it's like a thunderclap. All you have to do is ask yourself why. In 1983 to 88, why did R.J. Reynolds and Philip Morris spend billions of dollars to buy Kraft, Nabisco, and General Foods? And when you put that in the context of the addiction business model, boom, you see exactly what happened.
Yeah, you can see it. So now that we're at this state, if some of our audience members recognize that they have a food addiction, what are their next steps, Dr. Joan? What do they do?
So this is what I got out of researching and writing. I wrote 70% of the textbook and edited the rest of it. with two incredible co-editors from Georgetown Medical School and University of Texas School of Nursing, Harry Preuss and Marianne Marcus. They were on my doctoral committee, and I just couldn't have had better academic colleagues. So what I learned is, I know this is going to sound over the top, but just if you can hang in there with me, you can change your life and get out of this mess. It's all about community. It's all about that drive, that loving drive from the brain to make sure that we belong somewhere, that we are surrounded by people who want us to be protected, who want to protect us, who want to cherish us, who really care about us. If you're in that kind of a community, your brain will, then the mechanism is that your brain will just go into overdrive for you to fit in. And what does that look like? Your brain is going to look around and look around and look around. Oh, I want my human to belong here. Oh, this looks so cozy. Oh, everybody's so nice in here. I want my human to be here. I want my human to be connected to these people. So what do we have to do? Oh, what do they do? Oh, they eat clean. Okay, well, we'll eat clean. Oh, they go to bed on time. Okay, well, we'll go to bed on time. Oh, they move. They go for walks. Okay, well, we'll go for walks. Or, oh, they do chair exercises. Okay, well, we can do chair exercises. It all becomes so easy. When you, again, this is another big stretch. I know, when you can get your brain wrapped around that drive to belong, it's stronger than the addiction. It's stronger than the frontal lobe. It's stronger than any advertiser. And here's the key. Your brain has to, so how does your brain decide? Oh, where do I want my human to belong? It's going to decide on the basis of who it sees the most. The people that you're around most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of it's got its own logic, right? All right. So once I got this piece, I know exactly what to do. I got this piece as Zoom was coming into existence. And I learned right away, I learned January 1st, 2018, that Zoom would carry that it would satisfy the brain's just on all the time. Where are we going to belong? Who can I get my human to belong with? That the brain would respond to a Zoom screen and be satisfied that its precious human, the brain's precious human, belonged and was accepted. And it would do that if we could get enough programming onto Zoom and make it easy enough and affordable enough for people to be on that screen more. Or you don't have to be on the screen. You don't even have to be watching it. You can be listening like radio in the background. And so now, today, we are broadcasting over Zoom with live trained hosts. So the information has to be excellent. It has to be from the science. It has to be from a study. It has to be accurate. It can't be anybody's whimsy or, oh, I did it this way, I'm sure it'll work for you. No. It's just, it's got to be high quality information. And it has to be absolutely soaked in compassion, kindness, patience, understanding. I mean, we've just been beat to smithereens by this gaslighting in our culture and this delusional advertising and persuaded to buy things that are killing us. So we have to deliver everything with compassion and patience. So that's what. So this is our basic daily living program. It's called the ARC. And you get that Zoom channel. I think that's the core benefit. 24 hours a day, because when we started advertising this 6 years ago, we've had it 6 years, we've broadcast every day for 6 years. We had people sign up from all over the world. 3 years ago, we started a training program. And so all of our hosts for those 15 to 17 hours a day are either ARC advocates, or they're training to be ARC advocates.
Mhm.
They're advanced in their training. It's a 6-month
Mhm.
training. So you might be in North America, and if you wake up during the night, you flip open your screen, you're going to binge, but no, you flip open your screen, you get into a community, you get that overriding, oh, I want you to belong here and be accepted, that messaging. And that messaging is, oh, no, we don't binge in the middle of the night. No, we don't do that. But we do calm, we do have community. Those people are going to have an Australian accent, or they're going to have a South African accent, or they're going to have a
Mhm.
European accent, because
Yeah.
they're casting from the other side of the world. And then eventually it'll come back and cross the Americas again. It's around the world. It's around the clock. It's every day, because that is how you ensure, you make it so easy to get in. And it's fun. A lot of our programming is fun. It's so easy and it's so fun that you can easily expose that urge to belong to people who are not just super healthy, but they've developed, we teach 152 skills. The other thing to really understand here is, because of that urge to belong, being different from the culture, everybody around you eating 73% of their food in processed foods, and you're not eating any,
Yeah.
your brain cannot tolerate that. But what it can tolerate is, oh, that those people, that no, they're not our tribe. I'm going to open my screen and I'm going to get in my tribe. My tribe doesn't eat that stuff.
Mhm.
And I'm going to tell you something absolutely amazing and so cool. Because this is so easy to listen to all day long, and when there's nothing live going on, we send out a daily podcast. It's a recording of our conference call. We send out a daily newsletter. We have a whole big library. You can get in there and watch one of the weekend workshops. You have a secret Facebook group. You have your own advocate, a trained advocate, and that advocate's running a small private messenger group. So you can get in. If there's nothing live going on, you can find other reinforcement.
Mhm.
And the key is that you're doing the vacuuming, and you're walking the dog, and you're fixing your food, and you're driving the kids to school, and you're getting dressed in the morning, you're taking a shower. You've just got this playing in the background. It only takes 3 to 5 days. So this is what I've been told. I don't have a study on this, but like, one person came in and their pattern was to do well during the day, that they'd been struggling for decades. And so day one, and we don't tell anybody what to do, and we don't judge. So day one, she's done well, and there's a dessert in the kitchen, and she eats it because she's just like, I'm not going to get into trouble.
Mhm.
Same thing happens on Tuesday. Wednesday, she's standing there in front of that dessert at the end of the day, and a whole different voice comes on in her head. And it is, I could eat that, but I don't want to. Okay, so that is the belonging part of the brain. Is, no, we don't want to eat that anymore, because we're in a new tribe and we want to belong them, and we want them to accept us and love us and cherish us and practice. We like these people. So we don't want to eat that. That is easy. And then the other story I love is the person who every day for her life would go into the kitchen for every meal, and there the battle would be between the craving centers and the frontal lobe. Oh, I want to make a clean meal, but let's eat that stuff in the refrigerator first. Oh, should we eat that, or should we eat something clean? No, let's eat. No, come on, let's eat that. No, I really want it. No, come on, it's just a bite. Everybody's got that battle.
Yep.
So on day 5, she walks into her kitchen and there's only one voice. And the voice says, "Oh, I really want a clean meal." That is the power of that loving part of your brain, which is whoever's around, we want you to belong there, feel secure there. Whoever it is that's around, I'm going to make sure that you can belong and fit in. That's a loving brain. And that's what that brain is doing for the people who listen to our programming.
That is wonderful. I hope you have the 3 years to write this remission textbook.
I know. So we have the
Mm,
program, the ARC, and you can learn more about that at Food Addiction Reset. We
mhm.
have the training, and if you're just a normal, ordinary person, I recommend the training because it's a very systematic exposure to what's really going on, the business practices and the motivational interviewing
Mm.
techniques. And oh my gosh, there are 12 assignments in that. You just learn systematically what you need to know. And so you can train to become an advocate. If you're a professional, you can train to treat your patients more successfully. And if you don't want to be an advocate, you can just take that training for your own education. And then so that's at foodaddictionrecoveryadvocate.com. You can learn about that there. And then and also at the end of that training, we hire all of our own people from the advocate pool. You can come to work for us. We want your voice out there. We will do all the administrative and technical work for you to do short courses and one-on-one consults, and we will advertise you. And then you can also take phase 2 and become FARA certified. But the new community is the Remission Optimistic community, and it's at remissionoptimistic.com. And that's a year-long program where you don't just learn about all these other modalities that work incredibly well. You're in a group that meets twice a day.
Oh,
Twice a day, you get in there and you hear what people are doing, and you're speaking your own health creation. So people who've gotten those incurable or chronic, or you got to live with this diagnoses, go to Remission Optimistic, take the self quiz, go to Food Addiction Reset, take the self quiz, and then you'll be in our system and we will invite you to information sessions.
wonderful. Thank you for sharing all of that. So you also have a free, I believe it's a video, food addiction and remission video for everyone for
Yes,
free.
yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, and the link is below the video here, along with your website, your social media, so they can get a hold of you. So that food addiction and remission video is free for the viewers.
Yay. Yay. Thank you, Sherry Lynn.
Any last piece of advice or actionable step you want to leave viewers with today, Joan, before we sign off?
Just 2 thoughts. None of this is your fault.
Yes.
None of the mental distress, none of the physical diseases, none of the inability of the medical community to help you, none of the weight loss issues. None of that is your fault. That's one thought. Please just get that deep down on the inside. And the other piece is, don't give up. Have hope. There are now programs. I know our programs are unique because we've got a member of our community who's spent her career in health systems evaluation. She's got 4 degrees in the field. I asked her once, I said, is there anything else out there like this? And she said, oh no. And then another time I asked her, so what is it about this that makes it work? And she said, it is the constant access. And so she's really talking about capturing and protecting the brain's just overwhelming, loving drive to get you to a place where you can belong. Don't give up.
Love that. Do not give up. So good, Dr. Joan. I just love that. So those of you that are tuning in, be sure to watch her video that is below this interview right here first, right? And be sure to tune back in for the rest of our Weight Loss for Women Over 50 Masterclass series. Thank you so much for joining us today. And thank you, Dr. Joan Iflin. Always a pleasure to have you here.
Yay. Thank you.